Hi and welcome to CSM TAC. I'm Peter Briggs. Today we've got a very, very special guest, Luther Blissett. This is the first part of my interview with him. If it's no trouble, please could you like, share and subscribe to my channel. Much appreciated. Hi and welcome back to CSM TAC. Today we've got a very special guest, ex-England international and Watford hero, Luther Blissett. How are you, Luther?
I'm very good, thank you. Very good indeed. Good.
So thank you very much for coming on today. Luther obviously played for England and for Watford. He had a wonderful career. He was the first black player to score a hat-trick for England, and he did that on his debut. And I know Watford is very close to your heart. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, started at Watford is obviously a big and probably the main part of my career. Started in there, and Elton John as chairman and Graham Taylor as the manager, and the one with the dream and the drive to make it all happen with our help. We just did it. We did a little bit. He did the main bit, getting everything in place. And everybody can look up and see we came from the 4th division right the way up to finishing second in what is now the Premier League. But, we finished second to Liverpool in that, which is no mean feat. And I don't think it's anything that any club has equaled since we've done that. So that's a very special time. And his success went on for 10 years pretty much. We had cup runs and cup final appearance and many sort of excursions to latter rounds of the FA Cup and such. So on the Graham Taylor, and it's been an amazing thing. And I got my first England call up on the Graham and played in my first game, started against Luxembourg, and we won 9-0 and I scored 3. Should have been 4, but for some reason they wouldn't give me the first one. Still going about now, as you can tell. Represented England 14 times, and still to this day, I don't think I'll ever take part in anything that has given me such pride and such an honour to do, as to represent your country in an international. You put the 3 lines on. There's definitely something special when you do that, and for me, it's still definitely the pinnacle of being a professional footballer is to do that. A year in Italy, having followed that amazing year that we finished second in the 1st division. And I actually was given my golden boot, which I won for being the top goal scorer in Europe that season, by Gianni Rivera from Milan. And I got given that before I played my first ever game at the San Siro in a cup tie. So that was really special. And playing for AC Milan is obviously something that you put on your CV and you go, it's a huge tick on that one, because it is a very special club and a very famous worldwide club. So for me, that was an amazing year. Learned a lot about myself and about I think preparation for games and the way you mentally and physically prepare, because I felt the foreign clubs and teams were always that little bit more professional than what we were at that time. So for me, it was a great education to go and play there. But returned to Watford and got straight back on the score, and I think I scored 21 goals that season. I came back, so it was the right decision to do so. And played for Bournemouth, and 3 seasons at Bournemouth, and it was exciting there. So in the 3 seasons, 2.5, I scored 58 goals in that time. So it was an amazing period. And Bournemouth was for me was Watford Football Club again. For me, like almost starting at Watford again, and I felt really at home there, very comfortable there, and I enjoyed the way we played the game, and Harry was excellent as the manager at the time, so I really enjoyed that period of my career. Went back to Watford at the end of that for another 2 seasons before going to Bury, and I think I only played about 10 games for Bury, and moved on and played a bit here and there and non-league, and next thing I knew, it was all over, and there I was trying to get myself a job outside of football.
So how did you find the North when you went to Bury, Luther?
I found it very strange because people spoke to you. Strangers speak to you. which was not normal. It's not a normal thing that you get down south. You know, people look at you, but they really don't really acknowledge you. That, but up north, people, they look at you and they acknowledge you. They say hello, and very happy to interact with you and that. So yeah, that's why I say it was strange, because it wasn't a normal sort of behaviour that I was used to. But no, I enjoyed my short insight into living in the north.
What have you been doing since you retired, Luther? Because I was been seen on social media about you working for a food bank, helping people out recently. So can you just tell us what you've been doing since you left football?
Yes, well, I retired from playing then back in '93. Then it was I actually joined the marketing team at Watford for a couple of seasons, and then from that I joined the coaching staff at Graham when he came back in '96-'97 season, and I was there with him through that. Watford getting to the Premier League actually for the first time in '99 when we beat Bolton in the playoff final. I was part of the coaching team for that. So again, another first with Graham Taylor, which was quite an amazing thing. And Graham retired at the end of that season, and the club decided they wanted them to go in a different direction with things, and they brought in Gianluca Vialli came in, and he brought in all his own people. So myself, Kenny Jackett, Tom Wally, and all the coaching staff. But we all left, and I did a little bit at non-league Chesham for a season, and then it's been TV work and the likes, and the odd coaching, whether it be forward coaching positions, just coaching forwards, or doing the odd coaching session for non-league clubs or for you boys clubs and one or two other clubs. So that's really been that. And working for Show Racing the Red Card, which is education on racism, and the same doing bits and pieces also for Kick It Out. But it's been TV, bit of punditry type stuff, and radio and the likes of that. It's been the main sort of things that I've been doing. And now, with the situation we all find ourselves in since the lockdown, where I've been doing match days for the last, goodness me, been doing hospitality, working on hospitality at Watford, and actually doing that at one or two other clubs over the period of time on match days. And since then, I've been working with the mayor's office and the mayor himself on charity events, raising money for the local charities that have been without funds over this COVID period. And that has extended to a lot more community-based and focused work, which at the moment is through Marcus Rashford with what he's doing about the school meals. We've got involved with giving them fresh fruit and veg to children and families over this period of time. They can just turn up and, we give them where we're going to be and we just hand it over to them. This has been done through Warren's Fruit and Veg, which they've been brilliant for us on this. And we've just been continuing that way with giving away food parcels for a particular school in Hertfordshire, Warrendale, they are in South Oxley. And we had a message on social media yesterday, said, that the care worker that's been looking after all the kids at that school, these families, they had been taken ill into isolation, so there's nobody to do the things that they were going to be doing. And they wanted things like pumpkins so they could prepare for Halloween and various bits and pieces. So we took up the challenge and made a few phone calls and put the word out there. And within the space of about an hour or so, people had donated food and different bits of food parcels and crisps and all sorts of stuff. So I was delivering all of that today. And when you try and put it in a mini clubman, you realise how much stuff there actually was. It's not an easy feat to get it all in. I forgot to say, one of the other projects I've started now is, again, it's come out of what's gone on with the COVID thing and people being sort of isolated and not being able to get together. I and myself and two or three other players have started the Watford Former Players Club, and that is again a chance for players that have played for Watford to get back into contact with each other, whether it be Facebook or when we do events on Zoom or whatever, to really discuss where they are in their life now, what they're doing moving forward. And on this other side is to maintain the charity side and the community side that Graham Taylor instigated when he started in 1977. So they've all taken on board all this stuff about charity and that sort of thing, and we're making it a big part of what we as players are going to do. So we'll be raising funds, and if it's just make a phone call to somebody who's in need, or just whatever we're able to do, we do that. And that's something we've just started, and we feel it's the right thing to represent what Graham Taylor instilled in all of us. So
is that something to do with TaylorMade, because you have that on your social media?
That's right, yeah. So we're all sort of tailor-made ambassadors as such, but it's the former players club that is the banner above that. So anybody with that spirit and has got that in mind, wherever they are in the country, they can do that, and it's all of in the sort of part of the legacy that we're extending for Graham Taylor, because he was the one that started the trust, that sort of thing with community, and that he was the one that came out and did it first, and it's been copied by so many people. And so we think it's right that people are aware that Graham was such a big influence and such a forward thinker about the way football and the way it should be within your community.
Can we talk a little bit about your youth, please? Who was your heroes growing up, sporting heroes growing up, and what values did they depart to you?
I suppose sporting heroes as such, as I was growing up, you saw the likes of Pele and you saw George Best, who was a major influence on me wanting to become a footballer anyway. When I saw George Best, especially in the '68 European Cup final. So they were major ones in my thing. Also, you're looking at Muhammad Ali for everything that he stood for, abstaining from wanting to join the army and all of those sort of things. And I think those things teach you that, if you stand up for what you believe in and follow it through, great things can happen. You can influence other people. So in that respect, it's been amazing. What those guys playing football, if you start with Pele, when you see a 16-year-old kid in the World Cup and you've got men, seasoned professionals, them trying to literally finish his career before it got started, that for me was a really inspiring thing, because he looked him straight in the eyes and got up every time and just kept doing what he was good at and showed him. And that for me was another example of why you've got to keep going and don't let the bullies win. And, that was very, very important. And that became more evident as I started to play the game professionally, that people would try and bully, and it wasn't always in the same way. It was lots of different ways that people do this sort of thing, or it manifests itself. And it was how you went ahead and dealt with it. But having seen that and the way that he came through it, and when you look at George Best and similar sort of thing, people would try and kick lumps out of George Best, and he would again just show people what he could do and just do it again and again and again. And, so those things were brilliant examples for me, even before I got into the game properly, of how you should, you should really go about what you do. And that's why people like that have been inspirational to me to want to follow through on whatever I wanted to do.
And what about outside of football?
I think if you look outside of football, you've got to look to the likes of Martin Luther King, because at that time in the '60s, he got killed himself in '68, wasn't it? '68, yeah. But everything that he had done to move things forward for people of colour was just an amazing. And even now, you read some of the things that he says and the way he dealt with things, and it is really, really inspiring. And I think we need to. I think current footballers and people, I think footballers, because they're the ones that's the game I'm involved in, I think they need to sometime just take a look back and see what that man went through and everybody around him, because it wasn't just a case of people calling your name. People were getting killed all the time around where they were, and he kept his dignity and kept his focus and kept giving that message out all the way through. And these current players have got to realise that racism wasn't something that started just because of their careers. This started a long time ago, and the fight against it has been going on. And people like Martin Luther King moved it a massive way forward. And then there's been people since kept moving the thing forward. And yes, it's not been massive steps, but it has been in increments, been moving forward, and it's been getting better. And it's got to the stage now better that players, you look around the dressing room. When I started, I was the only black player in the club. You look around dressing rooms now, And, they are, in some clubs, they are the majority within a dressing room. So, they have to sometimes look at that and not just in their small world of what they see on their social media and whatever, and realise that it's a lot bigger than that, and things have really moved forward very well. And people have made sacrifice and they had to go through an awful things themselves, so that they have now this opportunity to do what they do and never really have to give it a thought. Just to hear the odd voice occasionally, it's not right, and you shouldn't have to deal with that when you're at work. But they've got to realise that that small voice that they hear now used to be an enormous big voice and brought lots of other connotations with it in the past, which now they don't really have to deal with.
So just touching on what you just said there, Luther, about players nowadays, we had a sad death of a football player from Manchester City earlier this week. And I'm just wondering if we think we're setting our players up for life outside of the game. Are we doing enough for our players? I always think that we should be setting players up to be better people, not just better players, but better people overall. And I know that I did that at Salford City when I was working with their academy. But do you think we're doing enough?
I think you're absolutely hit the nail on the head with that straight away. Yes, football clubs have a lot to do, but I think the people that have the most to do are the parents of these kids. The parents sometimes want, and like parents do, they want their son, daughter to get exactly where they want to be. And if it's football, they want them to succeed and be that superstar within the game that they like to be. But I don't think enough, or if many of them say to them, really, I think, yes, you should pursue your dream, but you need to make sure you've got something else that you can do if this doesn't work out, whether it's because of people think you're not good enough, or it's an injury, or whatever it may be. You need to have other irons in the fire. You need to have a wider spectrum of what you're able to do, because the number of young kids that come through now and make it to the very top is getting less and less because of the fact that clubs now want ready-made players, and so not too many really want to bring them through and work themselves. Watford, when Graham Taylor was there, our academy, which it wasn't then, it was it was just your youth policy was to bring players through, and it was every season it was expected that you had one or two players that graduated from your youth into play reserve teams to get into your first team, and that was a conveyor belt which happened at Watford all the time. Does it happen now? No, it doesn't. And I think football and football clubs need to almost get away from the fact that and I think sometimes it can be used as such an excuse. It is now a business, but it's pointless. No business will ever work if it hasn't got one crucial element in it, and that's people. And it needs the people. And football, if it's going to be a successful business, you need people. And those people are generally the players that go on the football pitch to make the thing work. Just like then you need the spectators that want to come aboard. And why do they want to come aboard? They want to watch players representing them in their colours doing the things that they would love to be doing, but they know they can't. And so clubs, I think, need to really wake up to that fact that they need to look after those players better. And as you say, they need to make better people rather than trying to just make better footballers. The footballers will come out of the better people for me, because if you get people and they're very rounded in their outlook and the way they go about their daily life when they're coach training and whatever, then I think you will get better people, and they will understand that if it hasn't, then they've not been picked, they won't think it's the end of the world, because a lot of these kids, it is the end of the world, they feel, when they don't get progressed. I mean, I was looking after some of the youth at Stevenage a long time ago, and I was one of those that had to tell these kids, that the likelihood we wouldn't be keeping them on or whatever, or they had to show us by this month if they were going to be kept on because of the level where they were. And it's a horrible thing to have to do, but it has to be done because you cannot keep everyone. And so you tell them always that, look, if you want to continue, do so, and we will. If you want somebody to be a character witness, so we'll do that. But this is where it is, and you have to move forward. And I think, and I'm sure they do that, but I think clubs need to go that bit further now because of, I think, the way young people, I think, go about dealing with that negativity that comes from being turned down. It's a huge burden for them to bear. And if their family and parents and all are not there to support them, so they can totally understand what the outcome of not making it could be. I think you need to know that before you go into it. You need to know that exactly before you go into it. I saw it from one or two people that didn't make it and what it did to them. And so you do everything you can to make sure you did. But I had a profession, because I've always been a big car nut, and I wanted to be a motor mechanic. So I had that job lined up when Watford offered me a contract at the age of 16, going 17. So I had something that I was going to go into, and that's something I loved and would still go and do now.
Can we now talk a little bit about Graham Taylor? Because I know he's had a massive impact on you as a player, and you've already mentioned his influence on the team. That won unprecedented promotions to the top division at the time. He then later became England manager. And I'm just wondering, what sort of leader was Graham, and what sort of influence did he exert onto you and the other members of the team? It must have been a very exciting period of time.
It was incredible. I mean, I was signed by Mike Keane, and it's a dream as a football. Because I remember that my sports teacher at school saying to me when I told him that Watford were going to sign me, he was obviously very excited. And he said, "Can I have a look at the contract when you do it? Because I'd love to see what the contract looked like." And so when I got it, I brought it in and showed it. And he was obviously very proud, because I've been playing in the school team from I arrived there, and he had been a big part of it. And really all the sportsmaster they can do at that time, because we didn't do training sessions or anything like that. They just picked the team, and he gave you a few instructions. You get out and you just did what you could. So, but for the fact that the faith from him was to keep playing you and help you and that sort of thing, I felt it was a good thing to do, and they've done really well by me. So, though where you start off from there, and then you get the opportunity to go professional, and Mike Keane signed me, and the first season, I kept scoring goals in a youth team, scoring goals in reserve team, so wasn't too bothered. But Tom Wally had said to me, that the club were thinking of letting me go at the end. I'm thinking, why is that? I've been doing the things that I've been brought in to do, but I've not been given the chance to play in the first team. But then I got the chance to play at Easter time. It was Good Friday, because we used to play Good Friday then and the Saturday, funnily enough. And so I played at home to Swansea, was my debut. And we won the game 2-1, and I scored the winning goal in that. And, so the rumours at the end of the season when Mike Keane was let go and Graham Taylor arrived was that what it was? But Tom Wally had a word with Graham when he arrived and said, "This boy, I think, could be something special. So, I think you should keep hold of him." And, Graham, really, to this day, I'm really pleased, because Graham actually said that to me when I first met him. Because he met every player in his office, the ones he was going to let go, what he was keeping, and whatever. He spoke to every player, and I thought that was something really, really incredible. Because usually you think if somebody's getting rid of them, they just say goodbye. We don't want you, and you let go. But he spoke to every player and told them what his intentions were, and if they were going to stay, this is how it was going to be, and this is what you had to do. So he gave you boundaries, he drew the line, said this is the line when it comes to discipline and that sort of thing. This is the level of performance I'm going to look for. This and all these things. So you knew from day one where you were, and that was something I felt was very helpful to myself, because as a kid growing up, you always had boundaries, and you knew what they were. And if you knew what they were, if you crossed it, you knew you had something coming, which probably wasn't going to be very nice. So he did that. But then his organisation, his planning, his detailed planning behind everything that he did, you knew there was a reason why everything he did, whether it would come to your fitness, whether it be the sessions you did to work on certain parts of your game, or the set pieces that you worked on. He worked on every aspect of what the game was all about, and he spoke to everybody about it. So he gave you good information, he gave you good direction, and your support was there as well. But one thing he would always be is honest with you. So he'd say to you, today you weren't very good because of A, B, C, D. So up to you now. The week's coming. We're going to start training. You need to start really getting those things in place. And that was important, because if you knew where you stood, and I think that's so important. So all those things that I've said, he's organised, he was honest with you, and he had values about family, which he instilled in the club and created everything at Watford, as I said before. So it was almost like moving my family to the football club and getting on with it, because you had a new father figure that, again, like your own parents, wouldn't let you get away with anything. And so it was a really good fit, and the results came from that. And you realise that you would be given an opportunity regardless of what your age was. And you had older players that were coming towards the end, and yes, they were important because they're experienced, and but you realise that if you put the work in, you would get the opportunity to be in that first team, and he would back you and support you doing that. And I think those are some of the traits of what a true leader is all about. Because I think you need to know where you are with them, you need to know where the boundaries are, and you need to know where you're going and how you're going to get there. And those are the things that he put in place for. And you knew that the support was all around. He brought in a priest. I always say priest, not priest. He's a priest, I suppose. He brought him in, and he was, for us, if we wanted to talk to him totally away from football, we could just bring him and we could have a conversation and chat with him about things that were in our minds or whatever. Didn't have to go back to the manager with it. So those things were separate, and he gave you that. So that's where you could go and do that. And all these things he put in place all them time ago. So that's why Graham, I believe, was so successful. And as he always said to us before we went out, he said, anything you're going to be successful in, deal with all the details, sort all the little details out, and the bigger things will take care of themselves, because that's the detail is always there, and they always say the devil's in the detail. And that was a major thing that Graham was about.
So that concludes my first interview with Luther Blissett. Watch out for part 2 next week.